may think that we're in beautiful Muskogee, but actually we're just west of Grove, Oklahoma, in what is basically a private garden that's turned public, and it's also one of our most recent additions to the Oklahoma Botanical Garden and Arboretum affiliate gardens. And joining me is Mr. Leonard Millard. How are you doing, Leonard?
Hi, Steve.
And Leonard's actually been on before, and we're at his gardens here in Londonwood, he and his wife Donna, and it's just breathtaking. And Leonard, what would people see when they come here?
Well, we have 8 acres of gardens, of which 2 acres are under construction right now. But this garden has been in place about 24 years. So it has established azaleas, beautiful flowering trees such as the dogwoods, red flowering buckeye, and many other rare trees.
Right. So basically a woodland type garden. And also I guess you have a little bit of interest in Japanese style, don't you?
Yes, I've owned a public Japanese garden for 25 years.
Okay.
And some of the architectural influences of Japanese style gardenings I've used in my gardening techniques.
Right, which is very obvious. Now, one thing that caught our attention right off the bat was another new addition, your greenhouse. What have you done there?
Well, I have styled some of the information that I have gathering from Japan on how they landscape and even use greenhouses. And so instead of a working greenhouse, it's a landscaped greenhouse.
Has, I know, tropical rhododendrons, koi fish, just all kinds of tropical type influence. And you also heat it with the wood stove, which caught my attention too. Now, you've added on an area that's quite impressive too. Why don't we take a look over there and see what we can see?
Okay.
Now, Leonard, visitors are going to see a lot more than just woodland plants too, aren't they?
Yes, the Londonwood Gardens has the largest collection of Chamaecyparis in the Midwest.
Right, and of course that's a conifer, and it's kind of challenging for us Okies to grow, so you're doing something right, and I guess a lot of that has to do with the mulch, doesn't it?
Yes, it's very essential to keep the moisture there.
Right. Now you also try to protect them, I guess, through the winter with the mulch too, and of course it adds in moisture retention and a little bit in weed control, but you have a very interesting way of planting azaleas. Why don't you show us what you do with these? You're actually planting them above ground, aren't you?
Yes, I set the azalea on 2 inches of peat moss, which is very wet, and then I put plenty of peat moss around the plant. We wanted it to grow real large, and then about 2 inches of this composted wood chips on top.
Okay. Now, of course, this is an azalea, but you also grow rhododendrons, and you have a different way of planting those, don't you?
Yes, I do not use peat moss.
Okay.
We use just pine bark, and we can use any type of mulch that's acid for those.
Okay, and you plant them still above the ground a little bit, straight in pine bark mulch.
Yes.
Now, that's very interesting. Now, I know before they've teased you about talking about drainage and everything, but watering is very important, and you've done something interesting here with all these trees around us. What have you done with your irrigation system?
Well, to give the plants a lot of moisture, we've just laid this 1-inch pipe on top of the ground and then covered it with the mulch. And it's a very quick way, and it doesn't damage the tree roots.
Right, so a good way to, again, provide the moisture, not damage the tree roots, and then still good drainage. Well, Leonard, as I understand it, this is your favorite part of the garden, isn't it?
Yes, it is. This is the rhododendron garden.
Okay.
And we've got some interesting things to see here.
Right. Well, I think the thing that caught my attention right off the bat is what you referred to as your, Bugle Bridge, right?
Right, the Bugle Bridge.
What did you do here to construct this?
Well, it's really simple. There are just two components, landscape timbers and railroad ties. And I protected the railroad ties with a little black plastic here that I stapled, so that keeps the water from damaging the railroad ties. And then this is just like a big flower box.
Right.
And I planted a juga here in the spring, and in the fall it was completely covered, and for several years we've had these beautiful flowers this time of year.
Okay, well that is truly impressive, and I think that's the thing I've really grown to love about this tour today is you're doing a lot of the work yourself, aren't you? If not all the work, pretty much.
As a matter of fact, yes, that's true, but I tell people that the sun doesn't go down until 9 or 9:30 sometimes, and there's plenty of time to work in your garden.
Now, obviously with 8 acres, there's a lot of plant material to put in, but you've really used some interesting things that spread pretty quickly. The Brunaria has caught my attention, and you said you just start with a few plants pretty much.
Really, I started with 3 plants, and we talked about the fact that it seeds itself, and plus it grows from rhizomes. So it spreads quite rapidly, and it's a very good perennial for the woodland garden.
Right. Pretty purplish blue flowers this time of year. Also, the lamium, and you've got a couple of those. Talk about those.
Well, there are 3 or 4 different varieties out. Probably the best one is Nancy, White Nancy it's called often, but you have laminum, which spreads quite rapidly, and you'd want to use that in a large area that you'd want to cover quite quickly.
And that's really the traditional one, I think, in it, with the yellow flowers a lot taller, and then the White Nancy is a dwarfer one, but still spreads nicely with a
yes,
white
and it's
flower.
very short and very white. It's a beautiful thing.
Right. Tell us, when can people come and visit you here at your gardens?
Well, we're open from 8 to 5:30, 6 days a week, 1 to 4 on Sunday.
Okay, and just west of Grove again, and I want to remind you that he's one of the newest affiliate OBGA Gardens, and if you'd like to get more information about the affiliate gardens across the state, you can write to the address on the screen. And Leonard, thank you again very much for having us out. It truly is a beautiful place in the springtime. Thanks again.
You bet. Enjoyed having you.